Namaste, I'm Samta Auntie, and in this lesson we are going to learn the infinitive form of verbs. The infinitive form means the unconjugated form of verbs. So really the purpose here is for us to build our verb vocabulary bank so that then when we learn how to conjugate verbs, we know the words that we need and we just have to conjugate them. Okay, so let's get started. How do we say to sit in Hindi? To sit. We say baithna, baithna. And this is a tricky H word, so I'm not saying batna, I'm saying baithna. Do you hear the difference where I'm enunciating that H? Baithna is to sit. How do we say to read in Hindi? To read is padhna. Padhna is to read. How do we say to sleep in Hindi? Sleep is sona. To sleep is sona. How do we say to think in Hindi? To think is sochna. Sochna. How do we say to lift or raise in Hindi? We say uthana. Uthana. And this is another tricky H word. So listen again. I'm not saying uthana. I'm saying uthana. Uthana. Do you hear me enunciating that H? All right, next one. How do we say to smile in Hindi? To smile is muskurana. Muskurana. How do we say to hold in Hindi? To hold is pakadna. Pakadna is to hold. How do we say to play in Hindi? To play is khelna. Khelna. This is another tricky H word. I'm enunciating that H after the K. Khelna. How do we say to give in Hindi? To give is dena. Dena is to give. How do we say to drink in Hindi? To drink, pina. Pina. Now, this is an interesting one because the word pina has two meanings. It means to drink, but it also means the noun drink. So you have to know which one it means based on the context in which it's being used, based on the situation in which it's being used. So whether you're having a conversation or reading something, you'll know whether it's referring to a verb or a noun based on what's happening in that situation. All right, next one. How do we say to fly in Hindi? To fly is udna. Udna is to flight. How do we say to dance in Hindi? To dance is nachna. Nachna. How do we say to stand in Hindi? To stand is kardna. Kardna. And this is another tricky H word. Do you hear me enunciating that H after the K? Kardna. How do we say to speak in Hindi? To speak is bolna. Bolna. How do we say to sing in Hindi? To sing is gana. Gana. Now, this is another one of those verbs that's also a noun. So gana means to sing, but it also means song. Like I'm listening to a song, I'm listening to a gana. So again, just like pina, and you'll know whether it's referring to the noun or the verb based on the situation that you're reading or talking about, okay? So again, gana is a verb to sing, but it also means the noun song. How do we say to eat in Hindi? We say khana, khana, and this is a tricky H word. Do you hear me again enunciating that H after the K? I'm not saying kana, I'm saying khana. All right, and this is another verb that's also a noun, just like bina, just like a gana. Okay, khana means to eat, the verb to eat, but it also means the noun food. Okay, so you'll know if it's referring to the verb or the noun based on the context of the situation that you're in. All right, balle for doing great work. Dhanyavad for listening. Keep practicing and building your Hindi vocabulary so that you can conjugate these verbs. Thank you for listening again. Alvida!